I would start with you guys from ETH Zurich. Do you have in your prototype, do you have an idea for the possible roles that would be a part of the network and would be have access to the different accounts you showed us? Which participants would be part of the network?
Which participants?
Yeah, exactly.
Whoever wants to share and access data.
Okay, so are there any specifics? For example, a company that produces concrete, something like that?
Yeah, I mean, the vision is that in the end, the whole supply chain can coordinate data through similar platforms. Maybe not exactly the way we implemented it. It's not currently so scalable. It's also a challenge. I mean, that goes into the challenges of how do you actually set this platform up. But to also, I mean, the smart contracts need to be maintained and need to be extendable, and so it won't be so easy to set this up. But I think it will be doable. And ideally it connects then the whole supply chain in a way that they can share and access data. Yeah.
Thanks.
And yeah, so, like maybe something I meant, since the data location, storage location and the access control logic are separated, it goes into the similar direction as Claudia said, where you can still have other data storage layers. So even company-wise, and then you have access logic. Of course, this weakens the technology stack. It would be better if everything is decentralized, but it's possible. Yeah.
Thanks.
But maybe in the same direction, I have a question about the right management. I think you still need access to the original data, so it's stored somewhere in a database or another cloud. So if you only store the control rights, of course, then you have a cloud system where you store maybe the documents, and there you have also right management. So if you just say, okay, there's no longer a right to access the document, then you can store whatever you want in the blockchain. So for me, it's not clear how is this really working if you really say the rights are in the blockchain, or maybe I missed something.
I mean, this then depends a lot on which data storage protocol you use. We used one that is called Gaia. So basically, a Gaia hub coordinates with the Stacks blockchain and encrypts data that can be only decrypted if you hold the right private key, basically, right?
So you're thinking about really replacing everything so in the company. So when you're thinking about I store some documents somewhere, so I have my own system, maybe I have a cloud service from Microsoft, so I cannot longer use this, so we have to store everything in a new way. So of course it's a vision, of course.
Or you put like middle services in between, right? I mean, there needs to be somehow a translation from that gives you could in theory use a normal cloud platform, but then you need a middle service that kind of knows where the data is and which address then has access. And I don't really like that idea, but it would be possible. No, it's a vision. I mean, of course, this only works if you use these decentralized data storage protocols. But we have research ongoing to investigate these more. There are multiples of them. IPFS is the best known, and yeah, we are looking what's possible with them at the moment. Yeah, but it would solve some of the problems we have nowadays. And I think you could still have like access control or like ownership control, so that companies could store it in a decentralized network, protected, not accessible by everyone. but it's not so easy. I think it's challenging, but it would solve all these problems of like each one having their own repository.
Further questions?
I have a quick question also for Jens and the material passport for the team. So what I thought was very interesting is that is the possibility to have like a specification, material specification, also performance specification in the ledger for very long-term assets. So there was a problem that we were dealing with, something that actually Niall initiated with Tata Steel, right? On thinking about using materials, in that case steel, for very long periods of time. However, the application changes the physical properties of the material, and we can no longer guarantee the material performance originally specified. So I just wonder if in your passport, material passport, you are accounting for this historical use and also the performance specification of whatever that is being captured in the ledger. If you can comment on that.
So from the blockchain side, we didn't really focus on the material passport implementation too much. It was more the access and storage logic, but we, or like I think Melia can better answer this, how this could look like in the ledger.
I mean, that's a very general problem, that materials change over time and this data needs to be updated. I think there is not even a solution for that today in a normal way, let's say, because stakeholders change throughout time. So we would need to also implement like IoT services and this and that to really be able to update this information and also to track the changes in a building. And then I think only then, if we solve these issues, we can go further to blockchain.
Yeah, absolutely. So what you're saying is that you can actually start to see in the horizon a tool that can actually solve that problem, even though we don't have a problem nowadays.
Blockchain is not the solution.
Even though we don't have a solution for that problem nowadays. Sorry.
Okay,
So,
question
for question to Pova. I really like the idea that bringing really a normal legal contract to a smart legal contract. You also talked about paying and maybe delay of construction work. So do you think it's really possible, as we discussed this many times with our construction companies, so you have some kind of claim, so the quality is not correct at the moment, maybe the contractor decided a little bit, okay, maybe I reduce maybe the payment a little bit, or the client, it depends on what model you have or contract you have, so you reduce the payment and it's really, and afterwards you go to court and discuss this further. So at the moment, if you make this in an automatic way, then you need some kind of rule. Maybe I reduce the payment because I think the quality now of the construction work is not good. There must be some rework. Now I pay only 80%, 70%, or something like this. Do you think we can really cover all these aspects, or we have to change the way the construction system or network is working? But because at the moment everybody is doing some kind of claim management and go to court, so something like this. Yeah, maybe you can also answer this. But so our experience was really that it was quite difficult. So
to tell you very frankly, I don't think so that every aspect, because construction is not like as Professor also mentioned yesterday, it's not like manufacturing, and there are lots of small things, and not everything can be covered on the network. But I still feel that it could be a good start in terms of automating certain parts of it, which we can identify that which have led to recurrent issues and which could be easily managed. So it would be sort of a hybrid situation for now, because otherwise it involves an entire restructuring of the way we do the business. So, yeah.
Well, an entire restructuring is not necessarily a bad idea. if the outcomes are improved, and construction is notoriously, certainly in the UK, is notoriously dispute-ridden because the parties don't quite convey to each other what it is or what you want. How much is it going to cost? You don't necessarily know either of those things, precisely what you want or how much it's going to cost, until the end of the project. But in terms of automating, you've got to start somewhere. I think that's what we're discovering. You've got to try. And with smart contracts, and I mean executed instructions, automated executed instructions, not the contract. I think there's a lot you can do, certainly around payment. Payment mechanisms in the UK are very driven by statute, so it's very formulaic as to what you need to do. Yes, I can see that a project manager would have to say, okay, I'm certifying this amount for payment, and you hit the regulatory milestones and payment happens, and the blockchain can automate that functionality. That would stop some of the more arbitrary withholding or the failure to pay on time, consequences of that being whatever it may be, interest payments, late payments, impact supply chain, and so on. And any terms that you can quantify, and I think we were speaking yesterday about weather, that's an obvious one. If there's more than 10 millimeters of rainfall, check, the IoT device said, yes, there's been 11 millimeters of rainfall, therefore an EOT, extension of time is available, then the project manager has to say, okay, yeah, I approve that, and can't not approve it, but you can begin to automate those elements. But the blockchain that sits behind that is more about recording that. I'm thinking selfishly is, with my disputes hat on, suddenly I've got all this information, and it's all time-stamped and authenticated and validated, and I know what's happened, when it's happened, and the communications that have occurred around it. So it makes my disputes work quite easy. Fantastic, I just know everything, I just look at the blockchain. But there is that bilateral arrangement between parties, and it's not all of this money goes, because like Irva was talking about, liquidated damages and claims for extensions of time, notoriously, they can be retrospective. So we can be sat here in the future looking back, no, there should have been an extension of time in the past, and so I as the employer shouldn't have applied liquidated damages when I did or when I could. And you've got to be able to reconcile all of that somehow. But then distributed ledger technology, it's a ledger. List of all transactions, you know exactly what your financial position is, and assuming that the parties agree it, and that's a different matter, that can be reconciled and corrected. So there's benefits, and I think there's challenges. Challenges being parties tend not to agree when it comes to money.
Okay, thank you. I think we have time for one or two more questions, short questions.
So I'm just reflecting on what Gavin said and thinking about Zulin's presentation. So Zulin, you said something along the lines that there is no generic concept for construction business to manage different construction business processes. Is that right? So it seems like, for example, in the UK, we often use the RIBA plan of work as a template, or the contract itself dictates what that business process is going to be. So I just want to understand more where that declaration you made, that observation you made, where does it come from? Is it like in the German context?
I mean, it's not just from the German context. I mean, I also did a review before, and then I really read a lot of people, like a lot of papers from different people from different countries, and then I realized that most of the paper that they written, it's really based on a very specific case. I mean, it's also most of the case for most of the things. But then I was thinking, if that's one like specific smart contract which can really help for all kind of process, then isn't it a very good idea? I mean, I didn't find any yet. I mean, maybe there's something exists already, but I don't know yet. So yeah, that was the idea. I hope I answer your question.
Yeah, thank you.
I have one last question. I think it's for you three. In the German right, I think there's the declaration of will you need that has to be given when you buy something, and there always has to be I think the right phrase is a rightful person, person that has the rights to do this declaration of will. Do you know or do you see any possibilities or use cases where machines, IoT devices, are able to do that declaration of will? Is that given with the right, maybe in the UK, that you have this purchase contract?
I think legally it's probably quite simple. It's, if I understand, and forgive me, I'm not a German lawyer, but declarations of will under UK law, the analogies would be valid obligations. So this would either be an individual or a legal person, so a company, a legal entity. And either of those could give validly that type of undertaking, is maybe what it would be. So if the device had a legal entity, yes. Do devices have legal entity now? No. There was a very recent case I read about in America where an artist used AI to generate artwork. He went to court because he wanted the court to confirm that the AI owned the copyright. The court said, no, the AI is not a person. You own the copyright because you instructed the AI to create these things. So the copyright sits with you, the artist. That doesn't mean to say that that position won't change in the future. Is it likely to change soon? No, I don't think so. And so it will come down to that, well, the legality of person.
If I understand your question correctly, I was thinking that actually, there's also a reason why I wanted to develop such a concept, because normally the smart contract is developed by someone. Then if something go wrong, so who should be responsible for this smart contract?
Yeah.
Then we might argue it should be the developer because they didn't really understand what I mean. But then the developer said, no, I think I understand what you mean. So in this way, we kind of thinking then we should actually visualize all the smart contract. Then you can actually re-see, is that what you mean? Yes, this is what I mean. Or, it could either be directly done by the developer or directly done by some automatic method. And then we all look at it together and then we say, yeah, this is exactly what I meant.
Yeah.
Then, in this way, I would say maybe the most of the responsibility would come to the stakeholder instead of the developer say, why do I had to do this? To have this responsibility because I just do what you said.
Yeah. Thanks. No, it's a good question.
Very, very, very quickly, that raises a very interesting point around collaborative projects and collaborative, let's say collaborative contracting, and that collective undertaking by engineers, architects, contractors, the employer, the funders, and everybody involved in a project, that they're all working for the intent of the project as opposed to on their own selfish interest. And there's very, very few projects in the UK that have taken that and run with it, but I think it was Terminal 5 Heathrow actually had a more collaborative approach, certainly around insurance, which was a lot more effective in resolving claims timely. For some reason, it's not been picked up and carried on, but those sorts of solutions, I agree with you, there's a collective interest between the parties that could produce a better outcome, generally speaking. I'll stop.
So
last
maybe
one.
Last
question.
Just a very quick question to Jem and Maliha about circular economy. And you talk about using blockchain for circular economy. So I just want to see how long is the duration? Do you really track the whole life cycle of the materials, or you only consider the last stage of the material? Yeah, because when we try to apply the blockchain for facility management, we also talk about like maybe a number of years. And then, but you can see that, we can see that, for example, for blockchain platforms, maybe over 3-5 years, another platform already came up. So we consider about, for example, 10 years later, then would we still keep track of those blockchain platform, or do we need to migrate from one platform to another platform? So when you talk about circular economy, what is the time period you consider?
Longer than 10 years. No, I mean, you raise a valid point, and that's why we are so interested in public permissionless networks, because they incentivize the node operators to continue operating the blockchain. And in permissioned blockchain networks, you rely on some node operators you assign to operate that node, right? So, and they don't, there is mostly no cryptoeconomic incentive mechanisms in these permissioned blockchains that ensures there is a continuous interest to run these nodes, right? And like, for example, Bitcoin has these incentive mechanisms, right? Is it Bitcoin that will persist the next 50, 100 years? I'm not sure, but I think these public permissionless systems really have the potential to stay around for like decades, way longer. And as I mean, we are still in the experimentation phase. What will be the winning permissionless blockchain? That's a question that a lot of people ask from a developer perspective, but also for me from an investment perspective, right? And there is no clear answer. And we will see, but I think there will be these blockchains that are very robust and stay around.
Because there's some argument or some discussion about the longevity or the migration or the interoperability between blockchain platforms. So let's say one platform obsolete and then we move to another platform, maybe some years later, then would it be doable or not? So it's actually not easy, I think.
No, I think these systems are usually very closed within it, but what I do think is that you don't need to necessarily decide for one. I mean, you can run in parallel. I mean, if you have a decentralized applications, you can deploy smart contracts on different platforms that hold similar access logic. And if one breaks, the other platform is still there. For me, that's in my view the way things should go. You probably go with the 3-4 biggest at the time. If one fails, you maybe take the next biggest or next most promising and re-implement the access mechanisms, and you always have a backup on different chains. And the data shouldn't be on-chain, in my opinion. You can also timestamp the data then on different chains, right? And make sure that you can verify it's the correct data. But as soon as you put all, I think it's a failing, it's a losing bet to just use one platform. There needs to be duplication, I think. That's my opinion, and at least, or my experience from the last couple of years.
Thanks a lot.